Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Smudcast number 737. It's time to move on, and this is a video from KingEmperorPenguin. Fans of Critic YouTube are not seeking good entertainment. I don't know exactly what that weird sentence structure is all about, but I'm assuming he's doing a play on words because he's British, and to him it's all one big joke. I don't know. But KingEmperorPenguin, he's been a friend of mine for a while. I haven't talked to him recently, but we've talked together. We've had lots of DMs, and I've asked him to make some videos for me. He's done so. So yeah, no, check out his channel. I recommend it. It's in the description if you want to link there. He's covered Mass Effect and BioWare and a bunch of other stuff, and probably some stuff you've already seen already on TV or at the movie theater. He does a pretty decent job analyzing stuff. So this video, who recommended this one, by the way? I didn't even see it in the list. Does anyone?
Ginga.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
What's the appeal here that you wanted to cover this video?
It's a pretty good take on some of the mindset of certain people when it comes to avoiding the woke crap, from what I've seen.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's interesting because this is 2 years old. So this was going on, I guess, post-pandemic or during the last part of the pandemic in 2021, and I guess we were all glued to our computers anyway. So I wonder what he has to say. It's about 15 minutes long, not too bad, and I like his style, but that's because it's very similar to mine. So if you like listen to me ramble on incoherently about some nuance, maybe you'll like him. I don't know. We'll find out. Anyway,
I mean, I liked the video, and I had no idea the affiliation between you two, so that says a lot.
Yeah, well, it's been a while, so maybe he's been doing other things. His channel is bigger than mine, so good for him. Good stuff. Anyway, let's go.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. The subtitle of this video is somewhat inflammatory, so in order to provide an explanation forthwith, I shall make this video short. It might seem quite absurd to say that YouTube critics and their fans do not want good entertainment. After all, they complain about bad and woke media, and their complaints are always about the quality and how the original media, because these new media are often not original, were superior. And the reason it seems absurd is because it is absurd to say such a thing. YouTube critics and the nerd quote-unquote fandoms around them want good entertainment, and that is something no reasonable person should ever deny. What I am saying instead is that these individuals are not seeking good entertainment. As well, I should clarify that although I have used the term fans of Critic YouTube, I have in mind the critics and subscribers who are either part of or circle around the fandom manosphere. What do I mean by this? Well, let's look at a recent event. A new He-Man series was released on Netflix relatively recently, Masters of the Universe, Revelation. Now, I have not seen the series. I am, however, aware of Teela's character design, and of Kevin Smith's numerous lies about the show. I know why He-Man and She-Ra fans are upset about the series. If I were a He-Man/She-Ra fan, I wouldn't appreciate any of these creative decisions either. But here's the question. Who honestly believed the show wouldn't be bad? Who actually thought it would be good?
Okay, when you see trailers, it generally is well animated. The color schemes and lighting and shadows are very well done. They look good. So that's when you're a kid and you see He-Man, you're like, all right, He-Man, that looks awesome. And that was enough for most people just to tune in and say, okay, let's check it out. And most people are on Netflix or whatever streaming service they're on now these days anyway. So that was enough. It's the stuff that happens during and after the fact that you're like, okay, some agenda is going on here that we were not aware of until the producer opened his mouth again. And it's like, wait a second, why are you doing this? Why did you change all these characters around and make the story not about He-Man? That's kind of the issue here. So I don't mind side stories. I don't mind having secondary characters becoming primary or whatever the process is for writing, but you have to actually make that noticeable. It's kind of like with Kojima tricking us into playing as Raiden. Not to say that was bad, but it was false advertising. So if there's
I'd rather take that than the woke crap, to be fair.
Oh yeah, Kojima is its own ball of crazy fun. But
It is crazy than woke crazy, let's be honest.
yeah, no, I'm not saying it's worse. I'm just saying, yeah, it's still a form of lying for marketing, but that was the theme of the story. That was the whole concept of information and who has it and how is it revealed, what does it mean, and that's fine. That's creative. You're a creative, crazy person that's doing amazing stuff. Read it.
And with every day that passes, all the crap in MGS2 starts becoming more and more relevant.
I try not to think about that stuff.
Well, to be fair to Metal Gear Solid 2, like most of the writing was not done by Kojima, so I can't really put his name to that product.
Yeah, and even further beyond that, in that specific case, it was entirely on purpose.
Yeah.
It was entirely part of that specific experience. So
Right.
at least credit for that.
Yeah, like that was planned. Like everything had its purpose and place and the design. So yeah, he's meticulous. We get it. All of his products are way over budget and take so much time to develop, but he does it exactly the way he wants to do it.
It was a completely different beast from the Ryan Johnson kind of pranks that we are getting used to now.
Yeah, and to be clear, not to say that MGS2 did it perfectly either, because there's definitely a lot of flaws, I'll give you that. But at least, like you said, it was planned from the beginning and it was on purpose. It was part of what they all wanted to do with the game, not just Kojima, but everyone involved.
Yeah, it was interesting how it was released on a demo, how the trailers mostly showcase Snake.
It was just the tanker sequence.
Yeah, just the demo, you're right. And then they had the little part in the middle where you play as him for a bit, like just, for like 10, 20 minutes. And then the rest was all just riding, all his storyline. And then we reveal what the heck was MGS2 all about, what the Patriots were all about. And it's so like, okay, this is so crazy. It doesn't make any sense. And what he ran with in the MGS4 was like, oh boy. And then Peace Walker, and then Portable Ops, or prior to Peace Walker, all that crazy AI stuff. It's like he wanted to do what happened with Star Wars, like the prequels. Like, oh, how do we make this make sense? How do we set this up? And you're like, you don't, but then he ended up doing it anyway. So
but again, to go back to the videos, like the stuff in Metal Gear Solid that Kojima had a hand in, again, it was all part of the experience that they wanted to give the players, as opposed to the stuff like He-Man or Castlevania Nocturne or shit like that, where right away we know exactly where this shit's going, and it's not going to be good by any means.
The thing here, something's falling over. Damn. The thing here is that you'd be surprised how many people are not in the loop about what's bad out there. More people are catching on to it, but as I said, this video is 2 years old, and we still get more of this really bad stuff. One reason that there are people who just probably watch the critique YouTubers in order to just see how bad things are. On the other hand, you have a lot more people, would be my guess, that just want to stay in the loop of what to avoid. Oh, there's a new thing of the thing I like. Is it actually good? Okay, there's lots of critique of how bad it is, that there's, again, the ideology stuff in it, the propaganda stuff in it, instead of the actual story and world and whatever else is relevant to actually make it the thing. So I'll avoid that. And that's how I've handled it for the most part recently, because they always mess it up in the exact same way. So even the calling it out and going into the details of it, like the Sparrow does, he goes through every episode of every horrible show, even that gets stale, because it's always the same ways that they mess things up, and it's deliberate. So no need to watch.
okay.
I read the trailer for Masters of the Universe Revelation and thinking, this looks good, but I know it won't be good. And I know I cannot have been the only one. Let's just jump to my main thesis. Many YouTube critics and many of their subscribers are not trying to find stories which would entertain them. They are instead waiting for the mega corporations which are woke to the core and which own the intellectual properties of their favourite franchises to grace them with new stories within these franchises which are not woke and are not poorly written. This is ill-advised because of what we know already.
That is possible, but that would fall into the what is the Stockholm Syndrome variant of fan. Please make the next one be good. Oh, it's not good again. Please make the next one be good. Oh, it's bad again. Yeah, that's also out there, but I think people have limits even with that.
Right. And if you're just subscribed to
corporation,
like a Netflix subscription or any other service, you're like, well, I'm paying for it anyway. It's not a big deal. I'm just not gonna watch it. I'll watch something else. So it's the same why we have Star Trek Discovery. It's just part of the package. You don't have to watch it, but you'll flip on every so often. Now
A Star Trek fan will give it a chance.
Yeah,
no
exactly.
matter what.
Yeah, like
in the hopes that, can you please make my thing good again?
Yeah.
It's shit again.
Like with Picard season 3.
That was a weird one because the guy who was doing it was like, okay, I listened to all the feedback from the previous ones, the previous series or seasons, and went, okay, we're not going to do that. And he didn't. He did something else. But it still was playing with all the pieces that have no reason to be there, and some of the things that just came along with for the ride. And you're like, oh, it's still you're still playing with crap. Like it's still crap you're working with, even if the writing is slightly better. So it was one of those things where I was like, okay, fine. I'm tired reviewing this. I'm tired watching this, but at least it's not utter garbage compared to the last season.
The odd one out was Andor, I would say. There was a Star Wars show that was... It felt like Star Wars. It was well written. It had a nice pacing. It didn't rush things. It felt like it was expanding the world, adding its own culture to it. Not in writing something over, but that planet actually felt like a place, not just like the next set piece.
That's interesting because Rogue One is what it came from, I think, and it was a prequel.
It's a pre-story to the character for Rogue One,
right? And Rogue One is like the black horse of all the Star Wars formula at the time, at least the first one to do it.
The thing with Andor is I do not remember it being advertised.
Yeah, you're right.
As if the people at Disney themselves were not aware that it was being made, and when it was done, they realized there's actually no woke stuff in it. We can't advertise this because then people might think, oh, we can actually make good Star Wars, so they better not see it.
Yeah, it's like
that's what it looks like to me.
It's like when we have KOTOR 1 or 2 or the story of Darth Bane, that it does a spin on the formula, like, oh, now we learn more about the world of Star Wars. Now we know more about the Sith and what all these permutations and problems exist that no one's bothered to think about yet. That's why we like them, not because they're particularly good games or good books. It's like, oh, this makes sense. This explains the world and why, like, retroactively explaining why things are the way they are in a logical way, and then expanding on that to make it more full. That is interesting.
And instead, they made with advertising, Kenobi, more Mandalorian, and was there another show I already forgot existed? Those all get the spotlight, but the one good one doesn't. And the only thing that tells me is I need to get my tinfoil hat, because my tinfoil hat tells me they didn't advertise it so that we don't see that they can actually make it right.
You know,
they can't. They just don't want to.
It's possibly,
they don't want us to know that they can.
It's possibly an issue of micromanagement, and there being so much that the people upstairs did not have their fingers in it. They went, okay, whatever. You let Dave Filoni or whoever's doing it do a good job. Do whatever they want.
The thing with Andor is that similar to the Mario movie, you could make a supercut for a trailer that made it look woke, but it wasn't. So maybe that's how they could slip through. Who knows?
It's funny. It's funny to think about how it came about and why.
Well, Adam Driver, at least now, he openly now says why Star Wars was shit.
I'm not even sure if that was what he meant, but he just made it a joke. I don't know what that song he was singing and what that was all about. But
it was pretty direct.
Yeah,
it wasn't him who killed Han Solo. It was wokeness.
Okay,
it's correct.
Have woke agendas, and in spite of internet outrage, criticism, and even some monetary loss, they haven't changed. Since they have never changed course before, for what reason should we expect them to change right now? Not only
he's correct on that. He's correct on that, because this stuff is will only stop being made once the money runs out, and not just goes in the red that it makes a loss, but that the money of the company runs out to the point that the company has to shut down, that its life is at threat. Only then. And that's where we are right now, 2 years later after this video, where we are beginning to see that. Because these things were never made to entertain. The thing about propaganda is not that it is made to sell, it is made to be seen. To be forced to be seen, not to be enjoyed, but to be gawked at and gulped down without a thought. And that's why people don't like it. And that's why it doesn't sell. It can't. It's not its purpose.
I think like the most hilarious one that I've seen recently was normies realizing what English localizations of anime sound like. Because like I think it was one of the more famous streamers showed a clip of Dragon Maid's English dub being like completely opposite of what the original scene meant, and suddenly the voice actor is talking about the patriarchy and how her clothes look like, and now people are picking on that like these dubs are terrible, even though like it has been years since like people have been nagging about it, that like this has to be changed. So I'm like kind of waiting for like what they're gonna think about it, because now it's like common knowledge that it's terrible.
Yeah, it has to be someone on the normie edge, like Asmongold, to report on it, so that it goes really far out probably. There.
I even heard that like they're gonna use like AI translations instead now.
Yes. That's mainly the push and why it's making news right now. This has been in the works for a while, but only now making news because the Western localizers are seeing their pelts float away on the river.
Yeah, well, it's the same case as like what these critics are doing right now.
Yeah, because and the thing is, the joke is, the funny bit here is that these localizers who push their propaganda into all of this art form, basically, this art of entertainment, are the same people who, in other instances, complain about cultural appropriation and cultural imperialism. And here they're just meddling with Japanese culture and trying to tell the Japanese on how to do their culture right. That's the joke. And the Japanese don't like it anymore and push back on it. The fun part that I heard about that is that the main push came from a Yakuza boss who had his waifu insulted by the localizers. Which I would find hilarious if it was true. I want it to be true.
So it was Nintendo.
Not sure. My bet is on Gran Blue Fantasy.
Oh, jeez. I just got a news report on, you know how we got a news report on the interview with Adam Driver, and he was on the show with the two other actors that are in the new Star Wars film coming out in 2026? Well,
canceled?
No, it's not canceled.
I'm sure there's gonna be a Star Wars film in 26. I'm sure. Yes. It's not gonna be scrapped.
Apparently, the director is Charmine Obaid Chinoy, expresses her enthusiasm for the project, calling it something very special, and that this is the first woman and person of color to fully direct a Star Wars movie. Is long overdue and highlights the importance of diversity in the franchise. Like, this is the dumb shit that you don't care about. You're like, I don't care who this person is. in regards to who bore her, what her genetics are, whether she has a working eyeball or not. Like, I don't care.
Weren't we supposed to get a new Star Wars movie at the end of this year?
Disney has a lot more billions to burn.
That's true. They do. But news reports like that.
As long as they keep making it, that means Star Wars isn't fully dead yet.
I mean, do I blame the reporter of the game website saying those things, or is that just the information they're getting, and they're just like, well, this is what I get. I have to tell this in a story somehow. It's kind of weird.
Probably the lines they got.
Yeah. If you told me a story about something, I'd be like, well, that's all the information I have, but who the hell cares? Like, why would you tell me that? What value is the gender or the race of the person who's the director of the film?
It matters to sexists and racists.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Also, the people making it.
That's what we know from Kathleen Kennedy. Yeah.
To a Star Wars fan, what the story is about would matter.
All right.
And that sounds like there was not a single word about that.
Well,
I want a story about the Infinite Empire. I want a story about Darth Nihilus.
We do know that it takes 15 years after the events of the Rise of Skywalker, so that's at least something to.
Those movies are not canonical. You cannot convince me of that. This is all bullshit. It's just more bullshit down the drain.
Here's Daisy Ridley. She's Rey. She's doing a thing. Oh, she's 15 years older. Of course she is. Okay.
Then she's passing the torch to the black disabled lesbian trans girl.
Oh no. Anyway.
It's still fan fiction, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
3 minutes in.
I want my Star Wars noir movie on Nar Shaddaa.
Ooh.
I pitched that several times now. Nobody's making that. You give me the license, give me the team, give me the billions. I'll make you a Star Wars movie that works.
That's just like
without lightsabers.
That's just like what we said with Dragon Age 2 and the potential sequel to Mass Effect 3. There was a prequel to have the I think it was called not Hawk, but something Knights, Kirkwall Knights, and then the other one was like you're a cop. You're a cop on the Citadel, and that's it. Like, that's the story. You're just a guy doing the beat, and stuff happens. Like, that's all we want. We just want to see a bunch of cool stuff happen. You don't have to save the galaxy. You just gotta the seedy part of Kirkwall or the seedy part of the Citadel. Just do that. It's basically Babylon 5 in a fantasy setting and in a space setting. Like, that's it. Just do that, BioWare. They never got around to it. No, we're gonna go to another galaxy. We're gonna have a bunch of mechs in multiplayer, and it's gonna be great. Like, no, we don't.
We don't care about that shit. Give us what we care about.
Yeah. Anyway, there's so many things you could do with the franchises, but who knows what they're doing? We have no idea.
Make the games like you'd made them in the 90s. Make them about. Have the passion to make a great game.
Well, yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other thing we rant about every other week. Let's go back to critics.
Unlikely to be fruitful, but it is also symptomatic of a widespread problem, namely the inability to move on. Everything has a beginning and an end. Star Wars started with the original films and ended with the prequels. The sequels aren't even canon because George Lucas didn't write or direct them. As well, the expanded universe was always official fanfiction and was never canon. Now, there isn't anything wrong with fanfiction, so long as it is entertaining and keeps within the general zeitgeist and lore of the original work. But being someone who reads/watches/listens to a work of fiction and then spends all his time reading fanfiction, official or unofficial, of that original work is sad. At some point, it is...
What is official fanfiction?
That's a good question.
The Disney sequels to Star Wars.
I was about to say.
The expanded universe that is also contradicting each other because people didn't care to keep track of what's been written in it?
Semi-official.
Yeah. Remember that
because
posting?
You are in some weird Schrödinger's limbo of is it a thing or is it not a thing? Because there's the other thing that says the opposite is the thing.
I'm trying to remember. Was it Johnson or was it Abrams who posted that reference to the EU about some force power that, that
It was Ryan Johnson.
with and it's like, Ryan, those are all decanonized. They're not real. So why are you using lore that has nothing to do with what you did?
Abrams
now it's
doesn't
all-
give a shit about it, so that's why.
Because now since it's been decanonized, it's all up for grabs so that you can just harvest it for ideas to pretend it's your own and to put wherever you want.
Which is insane, because that's not how writing works. You can't just go, well, Arthur Conan Doyle wrote all these, or I don't know, someone took the license for Sherlock Holmes, which anyone can do because it's well past the copyright date. And you could take that and just write your own thing, and then you could say, well, I'm going to write my own Sherlock Holmes, but I'm going to steal from this other guy. It's like, no, you can't do that.
You can. It's just very, very malicious.
Well, if it was written in the past 10 years, then there's a copyright on that you can't just steal and say, I'm gonna base my Sherlock Holmes on someone else's version of Sherlock Holmes. Like that, you can't do. You can do it on Arthur Conan Doyle stuff, no problem, which is what the point of using Sherlock Holmes in general is. So it's just this bizarre, like, dude, you didn't have to flex. You didn't have to be defensive. All you had to do was make a good film. And then you wouldn't have to do anything on Twitter. And you could just say thank you. And we'd all go, thank you, Ryan. You did a good job.
But remember, he didn't want to make a good film.
That is another issue entirely. That is something else. That is like, I want to cook you a meal that you are going to half hate. It's like, what? Why? Why would you ever do that? Anyway.
Acceptable and even desirable to say, this story was great, but it is over now. It is time I search for new stories. For a real-life example, I had to do this with Avatar: The Last Airbender, the animated series. I enjoyed that story immensely, but I did not enjoy The Legend of Korra for a multitude of reasons. If you want a decent critique of that series, you can check out E:'R's video series. After watching The Legend of Korra,
He's still
I
making
realized
it.
that there would be no good Avatar media ever again, and that I should have been content with Avatar: The Last Airbender. The story was excellent, and it had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I needed to accept that it had, in fact, ended. I also had to do this with Mass Effect, even though Mass Effect's ending was, well, awful, and I wanted another installment in the franchise to fix it. Fortunately, I moved on before I ever played Mass Effect Andromeda, and you can watch my video on Mass Effect Andromeda using the hyperlink below. For those who are wondering, I am probably not going to buy the recently announced Mass Effect 4 unless a similar set of circumstances and conditions which caused me to buy Mass Effect Andromeda are. If you are wondering what set of circumstances and conditions I am talking about, you can watch the first few minutes of my video on Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, this doesn't mean it is acceptable or desirable to forget the stories you enjoyed. I have not forgotten Avatar: The Last Airbender, or the Mass Effect trilogy. This only means you shouldn't cling on to those works and expect more than they can give. If you are expecting Star Wars, Star Trek, Harry Potter, etc. to continue on indefinitely, and you are expecting to be entertained and enchanted by sequel after sequel.
I wouldn't do that with Harry Potter, but I could imagine it with Star Wars and Star Trek because there is enough to tell in those universes.
I strongly go against that. I think it has a beginning and an end. I think Star Trek has been long overdue to die off. It had horrible seasons after seasons. There's
Not
nothing
with the
to
same-
tell.
not
Like
with
they
the
have
same-
done everything. That's
not
interesting.
with the same characters, but they wasted a lot of potential with later shows.
It's the same with Babylon 5. Like, remember all the sequels to Babylon 5, the movies and the
what?
Completely unnecessary.
Yeah, they could have been good, but then it was the same problems with the show just compounded, and you're like, oh my god, this is the worst thing, one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Yeah, they should have killed off all the characters. Instead, they died off in real life. This is just awful. Nobody needs cancer.
That's the thing, though. The show was wrapped up so well, it didn't need more of itself. And now we have the animated version of it that came out last year. And apparently
It looks
they're
horrible.
doing a remake again. And you're like, what is happening? Like, why are we revisiting this? For
America has America, or rather maybe America. It's not that America doesn't have good writers; it's that it doesn't want to pay good writers, and it's afraid of making new things. So it just takes the old stuff and does them again and again and again and again, and that's pathetic.
Oh, we got a
America, you're pathetic.
We got a super chat from the Awesome Fox guy. Hey, thank you, sir. And the best Star Wars fan fiction: Luke Skywalker makes bacon and eggs for his ghost dad. I don't know if you're joking or if that's actually a thing. I don't know. Is that real? Does anyone have any idea?
That alone sounds better than all Disney Star Wars put together.
Is it blue, green eggs? Like what's the color of the eggs? I want to know because it sounds like.
At least we know we know the milk will be blue.
Something Star Warsy. I don't know.
Pip, sit down.
Anyway.
Or spin-off after spin-off, then you are asking for more than what is reasonable. Nothing continues forever. All things end, even if you wish that they would continue forever. The inability to move on is very real among many fans and critics. The Last Jedi came out 4 years ago, and people on YouTube, Twitter, etc. are still complaining about how bad it was. This
Because
is
it is
unhealthy. It is.
You could call it unhealthy, but this is actually a movie for the ages. If you need an example of what a bad movie is, here it is. And it stands out because this is a several $1 million budget movie. There is no reason this was to be as bad as it was.
Oh yeah, the exceptional nature of this film on almost every level. You could argue the music was just music. It was well done. They got the right musician to time all the scenes. Like the cinematography was good. Like all the basics were there for watching a film, the sound and the visuals. But everything about the visuals,
certain scenes by themselves also looked great. But it's a perfect example of how writing fails a potentially perfect movie. Because with all the tools available, they could have made a perfect movie. They didn't. They made the worst movie possible.
It is incredible how
this is you will show, and I think this has already been done, shown in movie class in universities, as examples of this is how you make a bad movie.
How you blow a budget to, was it 200, 300? I can't remember the actual budget.
200 for the budget, yes.
And you saw
it means that 400 at least.
Yeah, you saw the DVD or whatever was it, the behind the scenes when they were making the thing, and they wanted all these different locations, and he had all these like, we had to go to this part of Ireland or Scotland to film, and there's all these dangerous rocky areas you had to climb up and during certain times of the day when it was raining. It's like, holy shit, this guy spent crazy amounts of time and money just to get the right scene for this stupid, like the milk scene with to get the helicopter.
Yes, the $2 million robot thing.
Yeah, for
robot
10, 20 seconds. You're just like, dude, are you out of your mind to design and build and get the crane and then get the helicopters and to reassemble it?
Yeah, the craziest thing is not even that animatronic, but like the fact that like he was coming up with these ideas on the go. So when they started shooting this garbage, like he didn't know all the things that he was about to do, not even half of it. I think like he even began writing the story for this movie before he saw what The Force Awakens looks like.
It was weird because if you look at what George Lucas was doing and his method of burning money, which is his money, he could do whatever he wants with it. But the way he created the prequels was so strange. It's like I need a robot. I need like a really scary looking droid, but not like powerful, but just like a robot. And he asks all his designers to just come back a week later and have all these storyboards of different. We'd pick like one of them or two of them, and then they would go back another week and they would redesign the it's like that's 2 weeks of like, man hours and design, and just to him to look at something, I want that, as opposed to like, okay, we're on a budget, what do we do?
It's a different version of Jodorowsky's Dune. I bet that tons of these designs that came out of the prequels that weren't used will be popping up all over Hollywood in the coming decades.
They just stole it from his scrapbooks.
Yeah. Like we've seen Jodorowsky's Dune elements up until the 90s and 2000s, I believe.
Okay. To clarify, it was
Time
300
to
million,
accept-
not 200 million for the
300?
budget.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my god.
300 million. But does that count like the advertising budget as well?
I would
Because
assume
like this
so.
movie was everywhere.
I would assume that's why it's 300 million.
No. Yeah, I bet that's just a normal production, because the production costs were insane. So it's probably another 300 million for advertisement.
Yeah, I would say that.
They expected to make silly amounts of merchandise sales. And now we can build ziggurats from Rose Tico figures.
And all these toy cross swords that don't make any sense in lore. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, the production budget is indeed 300 million US dollars. Oh my god! But
how many did it make? 800?
It made over $1 billion.
1 1/3 billion.
Yeah, but like the 9th movie was $416 million.
Oh god!
And how much did that one make?
Not that much.
Yeah.
They went down from Force Awakens to Last Jedi to the last movie that I didn't see.
Yeah, it's a downward spiral.
Yeah. So people kept saying all the time, "Oh, but they made tons of money." You can't. Yes, but that's not what you can judge them by, because they were constantly making less than their predecessors.
Like,
and
the
that's
10th movie is not gonna make $1 billion. It's not even gonna break even. That's my prediction.
Yeah, that the next movie will be a loss,
People are
especially
like
when they
so
start the
tired, and you
advertisement.
can't get like any of the old actors back in the role.
Especially when they start the advertisement as if for the Kenobi show.
God, did anyone watch that?
Even the Kenobi is like, I don't think like people were like as hyped as they were for like the beginning. But like, yeah, let's carry on.
All right.
It's like Smud, you said it's like, who even watched that? I did.
Oh.
And
I'm
and
sorry.
it still hurts.
Okay.
It's time to accept the fact that the film was bad and move on. People who defend The Last Jedi are sad, but fans who are still angered by the film aren't even more wretched.
That's great.
For some people, nostalgia is the issue.
They're
but I think
sad.
for many others, the issue is
Yeah,
conditional.
sad.
And by this,
He's forgetting something. There are people who are purely visual. I had a discussion in our local comic shop last week, or was it before Christmas? I don't remember, but it was not long ago. And
It was in Germany.
Yes, and there was this one guy who liked all the recent movies because they look great. He liked Zack Snyder's Justice League. He liked his previous Justice League also, but he liked the new cut even more. And basically because everything looks great, he doesn't even notice the bad writing. His brain automatically jumped to it's a good movie, therefore the writing is good because it looks great. Those people exist. They don't see problems with the writing because they can't process that.
So he's sad.
Wasn't that the thing that happened with Nocturne as well?
Yeah, although Nocturne doesn't even look great, but that's only for people who don't know animation.
Every
Yeah,
single
that's
frame
right.
looked so good. There's so many things going on.
The frame by itself? Because
Yes.
Nocturne has a lagging horse.
Yeah, it was made on a 2 frames per hour budget.
Alman, we watched with Lale and some other people. We watched the Mononoke show from 2007, I believe, and that is well-used CGI. That's the perspective always works with camera movements going around, the characters being in certain places and drawn in always in the right perspective. And then in Nocturne, you have this lazy camera moving about, background movement, and the sprites they put on screen make absolutely no sense. It's pathetic. And that with a budget several times the size of Mononoke. And 15 years later. I cannot comprehend what it must be money laundering. I can't see any other explanation on why these shows cost so much.
Well, we're
They
not.
had to put black people on screen somehow.
That was part of the rules. Yeah, we're gonna put all these new characters that are not.
And saying
Gotta
that
make her black.
It's in the contract.
and saying that killing all the white people on Haiti was a good thing. All the women and children, because there was a vampire.
See, all these sound great on paper. It's just like, well, let's fill in the details. Like, that's not going to work. You're doing it wrong. Don't just connect storylines because you can. It's not.
It works as long as people don't know history.
Oh, that's.
Which remind me, when did the Haiti thing happen again?
Well, it wasn't Haiti. It was some Caribbean island. I can't remember.
Oh, well, when the year?
Oh,
whatever.
16 or 1760s, or I can't remember.
It was the 1700s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I was also saying
Well, it was early
It was one of
1800s.
your grandfathers, Kinga. Yeah.
I think they got the dates right. I think they at least got the dates reasonably set up.
But then they also referenced something that by the time of Nocturne literally didn't happen yet.
I don't
Yeah,
recall.
but they were off with the years. If they hadn't mentioned the years, they could have gotten away with more, because then it would be less out of line. You wouldn't necessarily notice it, because you would try to make sense of it yourself, and yourself put it in better working years than the showmakers did, because showmakers are just pretentious idiots.
Especially since we've known for decades that the events of Rondo take place in 1792. Which made it even more obvious.
Okay, let's keep on going.
Social conditioning of the masses to approach entertainment in a very specific and particular manner. For decades, people have been spoon-fed, branded, franchise entertainment media from megacorporations and conglomerates. In the near past, and today even, people would happily wait for advertisements to tell them what and when the latest film / book / game would be, and then they would follow those advertisements to the companies and the advertised medium. Everyone was happy with this arrangement when the megacorporations provided mass entertainment, which was fun and good. Now today, of course, a lot of mass entertainment media are neither fun nor good, yet consumers still haven't changed their habits. Still, they wait for a work within an established intellectual property or brand to be announced, and then hope that it will be fun and good. Still, they wait for a mega conglomerate to advertise and tell them that this is the next big thing, the next cultural sensation, the next new phenomenon, which will rival Star Wars, Harry Potter, or even just the Hunger Games. Of course, the artwork, which is always touted as being the next big thing, always turns out to be another reboot, spin-off, sequel, etc., rather than an original work, which means that it doesn't have the necessary ingredient to be the next phenomenon. This is why so many were hoping against hope that the new Masters of the Universe series wouldn't be bad, because, like birds who refuse to leave the nest, they have settled into a complacent mode, where, instead of hunting for themselves, they ask others to feed them. This is also why so many get upset.
That's an odd way of putting it. I would argue that they like the thing, and they get the trailer or they get the teaser, and they're like, "Oh, that's the thing. I like it because it's the thing, not because they have a critical eye." So they don't know any better. They're not thinking properly. They're not thinking critically or artistically, or they don't have this concept of quality never entered their brain yet. They're not assessing why they like the thing. That's all it is. So I remember there were at least 2 or 3 channels dedicated to The Last of Us Part 2. And there was this one guy who he had a live stream, and he had some of the devs from that game on it, and he was crying when the trailer dropped or whatever. And it was the funniest, like the dumbest fanboy nonsense you've ever seen. Like, I've seen a lot of shit, and a lot of people called him out on it. I did that. A lot of people other did, and he was like, "Oh, all those other people, they're just being goofy. They don't know what it means to care about." So it's like to say a fan is not like the real fan, or he doesn't feel what I feel. It's like, yeah, I don't feel what you feel because I'm not a child who sees dangling keys and goes, "Oh my God, it's bright lights, it's amazing." We have these things called standards that we want to adhere to, and I've seen my share of trailers. I always go back to Mass Effect 2's trailer being the best trailer I've ever seen, not because it is, it's because out of all the other trailers I've seen, I'm sure there's others out there that are amazing, it hits all the notes for getting your attention, for timing the music. Like, I don't know if you guys remember the Suicide Squad trailer. That was amazing, and it timed it with Sorry,
Which one?
the first one. It timed it with the Bohemian Rhapsody music, and like the bullet shots were timed. Like, everything was perfectly timed. So as far as editing goes, this thing was amazing. If you're a fan of the music, you'll love it. If you're a fan of action, you'll love it. Like, so all of these things work together to attract you to go see this film. And
yeah, the trailer was perfect marketing plot.
Yeah, to the point that they actually hired the guys who made the trailer to finish editing the movie.
That wasn't a good idea.
No, it wasn't.
No, that was... Who thought that was a good idea?
Yeah, so, if everything's...
Warner Brothers.
Can you imagine? Let's get the marketing guys to make our film or edit our film in post. You're like, what? Okay.
That's the last thing you want.
It's a silly thing to say, but of course they're working with crap to begin with, so they're like, okay, what do we do with this horrible story and visuals that don't make any sense? So, people are gullible and influenced by dumb shit just because it's the thing that they like.
But I could never fault someone for having his nostalgia gland tickled while being shown, hey, we are gonna make the thing again that you liked as a child, but with today's standards and techniques of how to make animation.
Sure. Yeah.
Of course, people are gonna be, oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, and then it's destroyed by writing, as everything is destroyed by writing.
I want to bring us back to that Last of Us 2 trailer because it was the one in 2017, I believe, that they changed in 2020 because the game came out in 2020, I think, that showed Abby's muscle mass, and in 2017 she was strung up on a noose, but she was still a strong woman. In 2020, she was ripped. She was pumped, and I'm like, wait a second, everyone.
Yeah, they doubled down on it.
Yeah, it was so funny because, like, why did this happen? And then you realize that they must have made some decision later on in development to make the ending where she's emaciated and hung up on that log for like a month, so her body started eating itself alive. Therefore, you had to give her some massive body mass. And not in the form
I
of
was
fat.
a woman once.
And instead of being fat, it had to be muscle. So I was like, okay, that's one explanation for why they changed the trailer to buff up Abby, so that the last fight scene didn't seem like you were fighting a skeleton.
Don't work that way.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like all your glycogen is gone, and then the protein of your body is gone, and then your fat, everything starts getting eaten up. We get it. But that means you would have zero energy to do anything regardless, whether you were a muscle man or not. So
atrophied muscles are no joke.
Yeah, you can't fight.
You have to walk. You have to learn to walk again.
And that's from suffering, being emaciated for a month. Imagine if you were just in the hospital and you were just laying there. You'd still have problems walking and moving and doing anything.
I've had to be 2 weeks on a treadmill just to get my legs working again.
Yeah.
You know what that feels? Can you imagine what that feels like when all the grannies on the rollator things, or what they're called, are passing you by on the sidewalk? They're faster than you. You're like, You're like 50, 60 years older than me. Why are you so fast? Can't you slow down?
It's one of those things that you notice the nuances, you see the fandom and how these people react, and there's no logical. It's pure emotion. There's no critical analysis. There's no taking a step back and going, wait, what am I really getting excited over? What's the thing here? And I still go back to Mass Effect 2's trailer and go, this is a really well cut trailer. And I could see what they were doing. And I remember the scenes from that trailer in the game and where they took them out. It's always somewhere near like something climactic happens because it works very well visually. Like the death of someone, or right at the end of the game after you've killed the Proto Reaper and things are blowing up. Like that's the stuff they use. So yeah, it's kind of funny how that works. Anyway.
Created fiction isn't any good because they feel that a covert agreement has been broken, a pact where consumers would wait for fun entertainment to be provided by megacorporations, and, in exchange, said corporations would receive their money. The problem is, the entertainment is no longer good, so consumers now feel cheated. Because of the subpar quality of recent releases, this approach to media and this entire mindset need to be rejected. It is time for all birds to leave the nest and seek out stories which don't come from the entertainment mega-conglomerates. To do this, two courses of action need to be taken simultaneously. Number 1, people need to create their own original art and fiction, and then distribute them. Not everyone can do this, and everyone who can is already doing so by now, so we can move on to the second item,
you can still
as no
inspire new
further
people.
elaboration is needed.
Always never say everyone who can do is already doing that, because every month, every year, every month, somebody new gets old enough, gets the skills to do this. Encourage those people. Don't say that the cup is already full. There's always room for more.
Yeah, there's always problems with Kickstarter projects. Like even the projects that look good or have demos, there's at least 2 I know that they still have not delivered, and they're in limbo, even though they say they're still working on it. But like that's the risk you take for those sorts of things. And for people that are actually wanting to do creative stuff like that, it's kind of like a calling. If you're not ready to do it, you're never going to be ready. You have to actually push yourself to wake up and say, okay, here's my job, here's my chores, here's all the things I do in my day. You have to dedicate your life every day to that one thing, whatever it is. Could be YouTube, could be that book you've been working on for the past 5 years, could be anything. Like that's the level. And yeah, he's saying eventually they'll get there. You're like, yeah, they could. I know uncles that have been writing books for their entire lives. They've been done, a long time ago. They still think they're still working on that project in their head. It's like that initial inspiration, like the first love you've ever had, or the first car you've ever. It's like that's memory that just won't go away. You're like, I'm gonna make.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, just that thing that they'll never let go, and they're never gonna switch gears to, like, because they're good at the thing they do. They just want to keep doing that thing. They don't want to do something else, which they could.
Yeah. Just don't throw away your stable job to write that book you always wanted to write, because you better do that on the side.
Oh, that's basic.
Because there's no guarantee that thing is any good. There's no guarantee you'll even get it done before you run out of funds.
Yeah, the creative process is not stop everything you're doing and draw or write. No, the creative process is keep your day job, keep your exercise routine, keep your meal prep or whatever you do for your chores and cleaning the house and whatever it is you do. And then 8 o'clock comes by, you got free time. That's your thing. That's you. And you just explore your creativity. So it's always part of your life. It's not your life. So that's how you do it. That's with a business. That's with anything. You can't just jump into it and think you're going to succeed. It's usually not going to happen. But for making a story, drawing, painting, music. That's a whole. It's a lifestyle. It's not just one product or one process.
Number 2. People who cannot create their own original art and fiction need to seek out the original work of new creators.
Not necessarily new, but yes, that would be nice. But it doesn't need to be new. It just needs to be people you don't know yet. There is enough stuff on film festivals, series, comic books from all around the world. You can technically completely ignore America and still have enough media to last you several years. No problem.
Even if it's not new, there's things like the modding.
Especially if it's not new, there's so much.
Oh yeah,
there's much from Europe, from India, from Japan, Korea, China.
Oh yeah, I mean, you could use the fan fiction stuff. You could use the modding community. You could use things that exist, and sort of start from there, getting to know people and say, well, what are you interested in? And do you like the same things I do? I want to make a book. I want to make a demo. I want to do some sort of project that involves art and music and sound and mystery or action, like just gaming in general. There's all these people that are waiting to hook up with others to make a product. And it could just be a little demo of mathematics and puzzles. It could be anything. So they just need that extra connection to get the two people talking together, and they'll come together and say, yeah, let's make a new tic-tac-toe or 3D tic-tac-toe or I don't know, whatever they want to come up with. It's pretty amazing when you get two people that are thinking the same way. All right, we're 9 minutes in. He's giving generally okay advice. I'm not I'm not too critical here.
It is all well and good to call on independent creators to put their work out there, but nothing will come of it unless people are willing to give new original stories a try. No one should expect the cream.
The issue is still the product itself, not whether the marketing is there.
Yes, like you can't expect that like your this completely new story is gonna have the same attraction as the kind of product that like got like all that glory before that.
I mean, the SJWs have tried to make their own original stories, and they've tanked even harder than the stuff where they latch onto an existing
But they
franchise.
force their original stories into other products so they can exist.
That is why they prefer latching onto existing franchises and rewriting them into their own shit, because the stuff that they make independent of that tanks even harder.
Yeah, like Rebel Moon. Oof, that was awful.
I keep hearing about that. I still don't know what it is, and I want to know less about it the more I hear the name.
There are rebels and there's a moon.
So it's Star Wars?
That's
in New Hope?
Zack Snyder is attached to it.
Sounds like in New Hope. Is it in New Hope?
I was watching a bunch of football during the Christmas, and that advertisement kept popping on every break, like 14 times at least. And I'm like, wow, it's Star Wars. It looks like, oh. And the dialogue.
I tried watching that movie for 1.5 hours, supposedly, and I can't remember anything about it.
How many more hours are there?
The dialogue was so like, that's the like some of the scenes where they're confronting each other, and I'm like, that was the scene. And I'm just watching the advertisement. I don't know what's going on in the scene, and it's just the dumbest scene. I'm going to kill you. It's like, oh, like what?
And the movie is exactly like that as well. Like it has Zack Snyder written all over it.
It was so funny.
And supposedly that's only part one of the story. I just don't know how he gets all that money from.
It was like this silly, like this military guy goes up to this lady that he's known for, I guess, more than a year, and she's wearing normal clothes. Like she was also in the military. I don't know. She was a fighter. And,
yes.
And he says something like, "Well, why are you here?" "Well, you're still breathing." Or it was like something stupid, like what? Like you just
there's an even more retarded scene. Like right after that scene in the movie, they go to get another guy into their crew, because I've been told on Twitter that this is supposed to be like a kind of reimagining of the Seven Samurai story. And I was like, oh, so that's what they are doing. Cool. But it then they go to like this random dude who was working there as a slave. Then he rides a bird thing, and then he lets go of the bird, and then the owner is like, "Oh, you were riding really well, so I'm gonna let you go, but let me see this bird." And then the bird kills the guy, and then they leave. That was a scene for 15 minutes.
This is one of those instances where every script doctor said, I can't be paid enough to work on this.
That's why that movie cost like $120 million.
Oh my god! I have this feeling that the people who give Zack Snyder money still have not understood that at the very latest, since his Snyder Cut Justice League, we are only watching his stuff out of cringe, like we watch B movies.
That's exactly why I don't watch any of his movies. Like 300 was the only one that's passable, but it's all because it's based on a comic book that has a script, so he didn't had to come up with the dialogue.
As long as he has to follow something that's already there, he works fine.
That was like
It's
perfect movie for him.
That's true for
Everything
some
else,
other
just
people.
no.
You can give J.J. Abrams stuff, and if there's a script already that he's not allowed to divert from, he does decent stuff.
With Lance Fran.
Just must never let any of these people ever write their own shit. Keep him away from anything that looks like a pen.
Okay.
What about quills?
Oh, that's the worst kind of pen. Anyway.
To write by itself, or for the best original fiction to be brought into the public consciousness by some mega conglomerate. If you want to enjoy the best original fiction out there, you must take the initiative and search for it yourself. What if Star Wars fans, rather than hoping that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau save Star Wars and that Kathleen Kennedy gets fired one day, had decided not to buy subscriptions to Disney Plus, and had instead opted for searching for ebooks in the space opera genre, which...
Who says I have a subscription?
He's not.
Come on.
He's not.
Come on.
He's not wrong. I'm just saying that, like, say,
there's
some great games you've never heard of on Steam that are like $20. Is whose job is it? Like, oh, I found it, but then whose job is it to like tell your friends, yeah, I played this great game? It's like you don't have to like advertise. Just say, yes, it's a good game. I recommend it. You put it a good review, and the algorithm will take care of itself. Like, it's not like Steam has not figured out how this works. So,
well, that's literally all what I do.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like play games that are like hidden gems out there. Tell people about them.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is good.
Yeah.
Go play it.
Yeah.
It's
A lot of these subscription services are collapsing right now because there is just too much shit on it. Disney overplayed its cards with its propaganda, and people quit it. It's great. It's wonderful. On the other hand, not everyone who watches this stuff, especially the hate watchers, I would assume, watch it through the subscription. And you can tell by the numbers on the torrents on whether the stuff is actually being watched. The bad Star Wars stuff, you won't even get triple digits on Cedars and Leeches on these. They run as bad as obscure movies from the 80s. Even though they just recently came out. It's absolutely amazing. Nobody watches this crap.
It's funny because I use the subscriptions from Disney. I have one for my brother because I guess when you get one, you could have 3 devices that you watch it on. So I'm one of them. Whenever his kids come by, we watch whatever cartoons that are on. But yeah, that's it. Like, I don't use it. It's just there. So he uses it for his family, not because there's a particular prime show or something happening on weekends or whatever. It's just for the family. That's it. And there's good kids programming, not just from North America, but from the rest of the world. He's teaching his kids Cantonese, so they're learning different languages, and there's all kinds of great films that you could have the different language track. So there's good reasons to have these services, but not for these particular big budget shows.
which they might enjoy. What if instead of getting angry over the latest He-Man show, He-Man fans look for entertainment from independent authors and creators who have been inspired both by He-Man and Robert E. Howard?
But
What
it's
if
not He-Man.
YouTube critics, rather than making hate videos, made reviews looking at the work of independent creators, or actively searched for fiction that their subscribers might enjoy?
I would 100% agree with that. Would be nice when they did a 50-50. So for every bullshit fantasy shit that they put out, recommend to people Kubo and the Two Strings. Recommend to them to every shitty Knives Out movie. Recommend to them Ayakashi and Mononoke. And so on and so forth. That would be a good thing, yeah.
This, everyone would be much happier, except, of course, the progressives in these mega conglomerates who are pumping out the woke rubbish which passes for entertainment these days. Taking the second course of action will hurt the mega corporations.
It doesn't pass. It doesn't get the title. It doesn't get the pronoun for entertainment.
But not go broke. Who can name a single company which has gone woke and then actually gone broke? But because silence...
We're getting there.
What about that BioWare studio in Canada?
Well, there's a...
I mean, you can say it's just a department, but it is.
There
it is what it is.
There was this is back in the... I can't remember the name of the website that changed like last 2 years ago. It had a giant list of companies and groups that went woke and went broke. And it's still there. You can search for it. But the site itself is something completely different. It was One Angry Gamer, I think, or something like that.
And non-engagement hurt all creators. If you asked an artist whether they would prefer to have masses of haters and critics or be completely unknown, most would pick the former. Because if you have haters, people are, at the least, engaging with your work.
That would be histrionic. If you are mentally insane, okay, yeah, then that's fine. But
yeah, like
I would argue most people are not like that, and they'd rather make good stuff that is appreciated instead of mocked by the masses.
Yeah, there was a game I helped kickstart, and this was a very liberal-minded dev. She was a dev. A lot of personal crap came out about her that I'm not going to mention, but we just found out since November that she was tracing the artwork from Tactics Ogre as character sprites.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was hilarious.
Yeah, I knew that it was inspired by Final Fantasy and Tactics Ogre. I just didn't know she literally just traced the artwork. And there was always something weird about it, like something like, okay, maybe she did actually draw really good faces. Then she put like shit on top the heads that was so flat and non-dimensional that it looked like something was off. But the game itself, like she put jazz music in a game in a fantasy setting, and I'm just like, does jazz even invented? But like, do they have the instruments for jazz? I don't even think they had like a double bass back then. Like, so all these, like, there's a lot of things that she made this game that it doesn't even pass a fifth of what Tactics Ogre did. And Tactics Ogre is a really old game for tactical JRPGs. And then Final Fantasy Tactics was made from the developers of that game, and it was like the best version of that. And this thing, like, you can't even.
If I can say, in the long term, if it weren't for Tactics Ogre, we wouldn't have Final Fantasy 12.
That's true. That's true. So
in the long term, specifically.
Well, that's going back like a.
That's a long line of games that eventually led to what we know now as Final Fantasy 12.
Okay. Like, you couldn't even spin the camera in this isometric or whatever you want to call a tactic grid game. So, I was excited to see someone attempt, and there's been other attempts, of course, over the years of doing a tactics clone or a similar style. But you find it, like, I remember arguing with her 2 years ago, and she's 4 or 5 years overdue. Like, this game should have came out a long time ago. So when it came out last year, you're like, this is what you worked on? This is all you did? And the best part, again, was just the music, which was misplaced. So, and she was talking about all kinds of, like, if you dislike her or disagree with her game design or her artwork, you're a misogynist, you're a sexist, you're probably some sort of version of Hitler. Like there's
She knows she's a hack, and therefore she's going to insults.
it was sad. Like why would you like first it's okay to dislike criticism and say I don't agree with you, I'm doing my own thing, blah blah blah, I'm an artist, okay, fine. But to start using that terminology, if she just said, well, fuck you, I'd be like, okay, fair enough. But she was using specific language, and this is where her brain was. And you're like, okay, this is not the person I wanted to give money to, despite the product being potentially good, and then realizing that it was all shit. So, yeah, it's sad.
The gist of it is this whole thing about there being no such thing as bad publicity is a lie.
Oh, yeah.
There are specific instances where that can be true, where bad publicity is as helpful as good publicity, but those are very specific circumstances.
Oh, yeah, the Steam reviews are brutal on her. Her game is bombed. So,
like for example, if all the publicity you get is slanderous, and there are a lot of people who know that it is slanderous, and it over time comes out what the truth is about you, your stuff, your organization, whatever, then the bad publicity is actually okay, because it just shows how your detractors are the actual ridiculous people who just damage themselves in the long run. In the short run, it is damaging. In the long run, it is helping you. But that is more or less the only place where bad publicity can be helping you. Doesn't mean that it will, but that's where it can. And I haven't seen that happen for video games or movies yet.
outside of maybe No Man's Sky, that could be.
Well, the negative publicity about No Man's Sky in the beginning was justified. The game just wasn't what it was advertised as. But it grew into what it was advertised as.
I've heard the same
So
thing about...
that's big props to the developer that he actually made good.
I've heard the same thing about Cyberpunk, and people are saying it's really good now, and I'm still not curious about it enough to.
The same thing also happened with the PC version of Arkham Knight in like less than a year. Arkham Knight and actually Shadow of War. In less than a year they both got brought up to standard, and they're actually really good now. Arkham Knight, the performance issues are gone, and Shadow of War in less than a year took out the microtransaction bullshit that it came out with.
That's nice to hear.
So at least a
Ryan
couple
Johnson,
wins here and there.
if he is aware of them, probably thinks very little of my videos critiquing his Star Wars film. But, assuming he knows of my videos, part of him probably feels some pride knowing that his work annoyed a penguin so much that he made a video criticizing it, which then went on to receive 1 million views. Meanwhile, a lot of independent authors on Kindle jump with joy upon seeing a second positive review on one of their books. To engage with the media of these woke progressives, even for the purposes of criticism, actually fuels and motivates them. Understand this, they aren't interested in the money, or at the least, not primarily. They are in this business for their ideology, and whenever they see opponents of their media, they feel vindicated in their crusade. Ladies and gentlemen...
Oh. Yes. But man, do their hurt egos eat away at them. When you don't like their propaganda, when they do get that feedback. Because that is what happened with Ryan Johnson. He wanted to make a movie that is hated by half the audience. He succeeded in his endeavor. But he could not take the heat of the audience that he antagonized. He flipped out. He hated them. Even though that is exactly what he wanted to happen. So I'm divided on whether to not engage with it at all or not. The critique must be there. At least you are not. This is one thing that people don't get right about discussing or debating progressives, wokeists, socialists, communists, whatever you call them. Same goes for Nazis. You are not debating or discussing the actual ideologue. You are discussing the arguments that the ideologue puts forth in front of an audience. You are doing this for the audience. You are not going to convince the fanatic you are discussing or debating with. That is all you do is for the audience to evaluate, are you making the better arguments? Are you keeping your composure? Because the one who does that wins. But it is extremely unlikely you will ever change the mind of the fanatic. Because the fanatic cannot, especially since most of these people are narcissistic to varying degrees, they will never publicly admit any fault of their points. And if they do it in private, they will not admit it the next day, and they will certainly still not admit it in public. Because then, even if they do agree with you, they would be afraid to then be the target of the betrayer. They would be the betrayer of the ideology and therefore be seen as that and thus be attacked by their ideological mob. So even the ones that might turn around likely wouldn't leave the cult because they know what happens to those who do, because they've been part of the mob who punishes those who leave the cult. So you do not make these critiques for the actual ideologues. They know what they're doing. They know they do it deliberately. They know they destroy deliberately. You make all these arguments for all the neutral people who don't know yet, the ignorant, the naive, and maybe to those who already know, you give them another argumentative tool that sharpens their toolbox. That's all.
He's also giving them to penguins.
Yes.
It is time to move on. We must move beyond our nostalgia, beyond our social conditioning, beyond megacorporations and conglomerates, beyond foolish hopes, and step into a future where our optimism can be both sensible and healthy. Move on from the past. A creative future awaits for those with the courage to move on. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all have an excellent day.
So 2 minutes left of what then?
I think there is another problem which discourages some fans from moving on. Some people are willing to watch bad media because they want to have a shared cultural experience with friends, fans, and other people in society. For instance, all my friends and I, one way or another, watched the Star Wars sequels. We didn't like the films, but after watching them, we had a shared cultural experience among not only ourselves, but also among the rest of the general populace in Great Britain and the wider Western world who had also seen the film. My friends and I enjoyed discussing how bad The Last Jedi was in particular, and arguing with people who thought it was good. The Star Wars sequels might have been bad, but we got something out of them. On the other hand, I have read some ebooks by independent authors which were better than the Star Wars sequels, but I cannot talk about them with anyone because they are quite obscure.
Yeah, but that's not a high bar.
The ebooks I have read were
then
not,
advertise
and
them
probably
here.
will never be, widely read by people in society, and thus will never form the basis of a shared cultural experience. The second course of action...
Why didn't you tell him that it was a good book?
What are these
penguin?
books? What are these books? Tell me, so that we can build this. This is word of mouth. This is how these things get big in the first place. Do you think Perry Roden started as everybody knew it? Dude.
Oh. Well.
You're missing on the very thing that you said. Seek out new stuff.
Make recommendations, provide solutions. Again, you don't have to provide solutions, but if your suggestion is provide solutions by seeking stuff out and you have the answer, just give us the answer.
I'm not telling you who the good alternative offers are because you don't know them yet. Dude. Bird brain.
Yeah.
I have outlined in the main section of this video essay does have a unique challenge. If individuals are going to take this course of action earnestly, ways and means of promoting good original media will have to be discovered, adopted, and perfected, so a larger shared experience can be created in order to make fun and interesting discussions about said media a possibility.
So go on Goodreads, go on Steam, find the reviews of 5-star people, people you know. They have a list of all their reviews. You read them and you ask them, hey, why did you like that? Why did you leave a review? And they'll tell you. They love something, they'll tell you why. That's pretty much, if you're into books, into movies. I don't know the proper movie websites that would do that, but I'm sure like Letterboxd is one of them that you could find.
Check out what gets negative reviews by professional critics on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, God.
And find good movies.
Yeah, do the opposite of all the Rotten Tomatoes reviews by the critics. Just if it's bad, it's probably very good to watch. Oh boy.
For some individuals, this is a tough sell, because part of the reason they engage with certain media is for the social function that comes along with it, the easily shared cultural and social experience which allows them to become part of something larger. Thus, this is another roadblock which must be overcome to move on.
It's just an elaborate way of saying let the past die.
No, I'm just thinking like if I like Planescape Torment, it's a one-player game. I'm not gonna like, hey guys, do you like the nameless one? Yeah, me too, dude. It's like no one's gonna have that kind of reaction. Let's start a webbering. Let's make some websites on the nameless one. Yeah, it's like,
Smart. Nobody knows anymore what that is.
yeah, I know. It's just funny that you have to like talk to people. It's like, yeah, but it's not that big a deal. I'll find someone on some group or some sort of forum that we can talk about stuff if needs be. Like I remember the BioWare social forums. That was the thing. They gave you the access. If you bought a game, you have to put the ID number of the game into the forums so you could get access and actually add posts to the forums. But nowadays you can go anywhere online, find those, talk to people, Twitter, etc. Not a big deal. I still say go to goodreads.com, go to Steam, go to Letterboxd, find the fans, find the critics you like, see what they recommend, and see what they recommend is good. For example, I recommend Ast Libra. It's probably not the best side-scrolling game, but if you like cheaper games, I think it just came out on the Switch in November actually last year.
I think so.
So yeah, it's one of those just really well done. It feels like every manga I've read wrapped into a little sort of side-scrolling action adventure fantasy game.
What's that name?
Ast Libra. It's this silly Latin word. Revision. Because it's the second version. So the guy made the game, and then he's like, well, now I got more time to make it better. It's just a one-man operation, by the way. This guy's been working on this thing for like...
Oh, it's one of those needlessly long video game titles?
No.
Isn't it a Metroidvania?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my interest for it. Set.
Yeah, no, I just looking at another one today, I forgot the name, but there's a company that just does those styles of games. I'm like, wow, they put a lot of effort into this new sequel or version of whatever they're doing. So if you're looking for a genre, if you're looking for a piece of media, I still remember my critics from 20 years ago. They're still doing the same thing. And I listen to them. And movie critics, game critics, etc. And find what they like and why. And poke holes into why they like the things they like that they like. Because I have my biases, as you know. I like the 80s. Anything 80s I love, even the Thor film, which had an amazing trailer about the 80s, which made me watch it.
There was a Thor film in the 80s?
It made me feel like I was in the 80s when I watched the trailer.
Oh.
Ragnarok had a really good trailer.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So, I have my own faults and failings on what makes something good and what is of quality. But if they could have a discussion about aesthetics and mention the word quality, then great. They're probably nice to listen to. They might understand the subjectivity of opinions, which is always good. So we know why they like the things they do. But yeah, I thought that was a good video. I thought he did a decent job explaining things. Not the greatest solution, but you don't have to provide a solution in your criticism or your critical analysis. Anyway, we got a super chat from Copperell. Thank you, sir. You can buy my book, The Epic of Cassius Crossroads. Well, there you go. See, we already have options for you to check out if you're curious about new media. So,
Since the Penguin didn't provide us with any,
yeah, we got to get our Lego fanatic content
I
going.
hold him in contempt for that.
Maybe he did a
I mean, that
decent
was his
job.
point. We got to put in the work to find it ourselves.
He wanted people to share good recommendations and didn't give any.
That's
I
actually,
understand you want to keep your
Kampf.
I understand you want to keep your video neutral, but
yeah.
dude, there is unobjectionable high class stuff out there. I'm sure you know one or two.
That's actually not a bad idea to start up a channel dedicated to links to movies, videos, TV shows, books that everyone should check out. Or
The main problem that I see with making stuff like that is that about those things you really want to be careful to advertise them without spoiling anything.
so a non-spoiler link to
Yeah, I think that's just difficult to make.
right. Yeah.
With all the crap, it's easy to go into every detail of the crap because it's in part it's the fun of it. But when you want to recommend something truly, truly good, you don't want to go into the details because, well, you spoil it.
Well, if you have a genre you
I
enjoy,
don't know if there's something really good, then like even if you know like a major spoiler, it's still gonna be good. Like I'm currently watching Tomorrow's Joe, like the anime from 70s. Like the manga was from the 60s. Like that's how old it is. And I knew it from like day one that the character is gonna die after a boxing match, and it didn't really bother me because like there are so many twists in the story that like you just can't spoil the entire thing.
Maybe if it's a bigger thing, I guess it would be easier to go into the positives of it.
If something is
if it's just a
masterfully
movie-
written, then like a few spoilers are not gonna kill it.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to do such a recommendation for Kubo and the Two Strings, and it would be very short, and then I would maybe add the more spoiler heavy review on it afterwards. But then even then I would feel uncomfortable about it because there are a lot of people who just keep on watching through that thing instead of watching the actual movie, which would then be a waste.
either way, I think we should start up a channel just for people randomly making recommendations, obviously spoiler free, and saying, I like this because of X, and link to the, I don't know, any page, not a purchase page. We don't want to get you to buy anything from the channel, just to link to a description, a review, whatever you like, and tell us why. That's it. I think that would work.
That's
Yeah, and after that, it's up to you to engage.
Yeah, exactly.
Just good stuff recommendations.
There you go. We'll start up a channel right there. About that. Okay. Well, thank you guys. That was a interesting video from KingEmperorPenguin. I should
And now the
probably
memes.
the memes. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. See if we got.
I mean,
So close.
Well, no, there's probably some memes. I don't know how many.
at least it wasn't a video that had us ripping our hair out.
This is a good point.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is this the right one? Wisp describes Stockholm fan me. That's me with comics. Wisp every day. I wish Marvel DC would get their shit together, but they don't, and I'm still hoping they do.
Yeah, you're starting in the right spot.
All right. Oh, another one. Mark, we're using AI to translate anime. Wisp. Awesome. Me. Can't we just get fans who know Japanese to translate them by hand?
Yeah, they are called fan subs.
Yeah, that's not the best results.
It depends. Some of them are much better than
Some
the
of them are
professional ones.
amazing.
Yeah.
Most of them are like,
Because they, yep.
say your line. What?
At this
Yeah,
point, we'll see how the AI compares.
Yeah, but the fans, the really good fan subs, they take the effort to translate parts on the screen. They play around with where to put the subs and so on. It's something the AI is not likely going to do very
My
soon.
favorite thing that I saw recently was someone took the effort to because nowadays you can do like very fancy stuff with the subtitles. So like you can even have like some kind of background behind the sub. So what they have done is they put the English text on some of the signs that you usually have on the top on the screen as translation. So you don't have to bother with that. You have it on the center of the screen like it was meant to be.
Really, I'm surprised we're at that point.
Yeah,
now.
like. And you can do that with subtitle text. It's crazy.
I've seen really good ones, like I think 15. I can't remember the name of the anime, but it was as if someone was typing in Japanese in the anime, and we saw the 3D object of the subtitle as they were reading.
Same.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, it looks exactly like a visual from the anime, but it really is just a subtitle object.
Yeah.
Like a really good superimpose technique.
Yeah.
All right, here's here's the meme with King Emperor Penguin. People only want recycled slop from their childhood. No, we want them to continue, but to keep the quality good and coexist with new things.
That is a decent point.
That is the bare minimum we want. We just want the thing we like with some new thing that complements it. That's it. If you want to contrast something, that's a different story, but you have to know what you're doing. But don't do it unless you know what you're doing. So, Wisp again. There's enough content not from America to last you a lifetime. Wisp, I admit to being an ignorant hick, but what am I supposed to do since I have no interest in foreign content?
Ouch.
Well, that's your problem being an ignorant hick. That sounds like a you problem.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Pingu More.
Pingu.
Yeah, but like Pingu. Pingu is not American as far as I know.
Well, we've had him since the 70s or 80s.
What are you talking about? It's King Emperor Penguin.
Oh.
Oh, I thought it was Pip from the chat building towers.
I'm not sure what I'm looking at, but that is
I've never seen.
Totally not Star Wars.
That is the funniest looking spaceship.
The better
Space
Rebel
Gorilla.
Moon. The better Rebel Moon. Battle between the stars.
I'm sorry, but that is either a pair of breasts
That's not a high bar.
or scrotum. I don't know what's going on there.
That's a uterus with a scrotum.
Oh my goodness. I mean, come on.
There's a double-headed robot. It has a space gorilla.
Yeah, this is.
What more do you want?
This is. Is that Storm from X-Men?
No.
I thought that's Beverly Crusher.
I was about to say something. Star Trek. I got
The guy looks like Wesley.
I was my brain went there. I was like, what the hell? This is amazing. Like this is the stuff like the 70s sort of B flicks that you're like, I gotta watch that. What the hell is this? It's so crazy. It's best to travel back in time to dig up hidden gems of a bygone era than dig through a pile of crap of the current era for a bar of gold legacy. Okay.
That's literally what I've been doing since the pandemic started, but with video games.
Nice. Very good.
Legacy, don't put yourself in quotes as if you're quoting someone else. That looks shit. Don't do that.
Gold Digger
just say the thing.
I think I know this one.
Yeah, like send a super chat or something.
Yeah.
At least $10.
Yeah.
So we got Big Guy and Rusty the Boy Robot from Frank Miller, by the way. Untick Secrets and Seekers. Gold Digger the movie.
I remember Gold Digger.
Yeah, I think I do too.
And Yokaiden. Or if I botched it, I'm sorry.
Here is, does jazz even exist in a fantasy game? Yep, here's proof, and that is Breath of Fire 3. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just like, even Symphony of the Night had music for the tournaments that didn't exist yet.
This is true. The issue is that one example, that was like the one critical piece of music that like was the Colosseum music, right?
That was one of them, and there was also one of the exclusive areas from the Saturn version that had I think, what was it, like a disco version of Vampire Killer?
Yeah,
It is not by my hand that I danced the night away.
That even as good as the music was, even people who played the game like, this feels out of place. They were like, what's up with this Colosseum jazzy fighting skeletons
And at that point, I'm just like, oh, who the hell cares?
It's
Yes, it's out
different.
of place. Yes, it's out of place. We get it. It
It's-
is still good music in a area that fits it decently well enough.
In Symphony of the
Whatever.
Night, the entire soundtrack is amazing. With the game that I'm referring to, that was all jazz music. It did not work. Like every freaking scene had the trumpet. You're like, okay, this is getting comical because you hear, you're like, what the?
Yeah, in that case, it went too
It's
far.
like a Seinfeld episode. Like, what the hell?
Either that, there's another example where what was it, Mega Man X3? All of the entire soundtrack was on the electric guitar, but because it was the SNES sound chip, it's like it sounded so wrong. But then
Oh, yeah.
that game got re-released on the PS1, and they actually did the soundtrack proper with the real instruments, and the soundtrack benefited from that upgrade.
This is reminiscent of As Libra, the first level you fight in. It feels like you're playing Castlevania. It has the electric guitar, and you're like, oh, this is what I know.
And now I'm not surprised you like that game just from hearing that from you.
A lot of people in the reviews would say, as soon as we heard that music in the first level, it's like, oh, this is it. This is the game.
Like these guys know their shit.
And it has a bunch of manga tropes or anime tropes that you're like, oh, they're going this way. And they're still going this. It just keeps going and pushing. And you're like, oh, okay, this is getting goofy now, but it's actually not bad. The story doesn't hurt your brain that much.
Which, for those interested in getting As Libra, it is 20% off right now. It's $20.
Okay, Smut and Whisp are good critics. Thank you for recommending me this anime. I don't think we had to recommend that to you, sir. I think you already watched it twice, so it's and I've
Yeah, that came up. That came up with the last Smudcast, didn't it? You guys mentioned it.
I brought it up because of the plot, but you know it's not for everyone. You gotta appreciate that level of quality of content. A better alternative for He-Man fans is John Mallon's Godlike on Indiegogo.
Godlike, yeah.
Interesting.
Forgot that was actually a thing, but like when I first saw it, I'm just like, yeah, I might keep an eye on this.
We shouldn't remain attached to what we love and move on. Fair enough. So you, a Last Jedi hater, want to let the past die. Okay. Yes.
Oh.
And then one more meme, shadow dropped by Copperell.
Think of a fantasy world, but with Wild West tech, where you follow lawmen on various adventures. Har har. There is his
Trigun?
I guess the not Ruby book.
No, that's Trigun or Desert Punk.
Desert Punk's a little
Or The
different.
Room by Tommy Wiseau.
I love Desert Punk. That was funny.
It was definitely mature, yeah. All right, that was interesting video. Thanks for recommending it, KingEmperor.
Yes.
All right. I know we missed yesterday, but we're still kind of lazy and busy. Even though we're working and we're just tired. You know, just like
And our manager isn't back yet.
Matthias is still missing in action.
siesta for days. That guy. He's gonna-
Like I regret giving him Persona 5 as a gift.
Oh no.
that'll
That
suck up,
explains that.
that'll suck up a few months of his life. Yeah.
I
Anyway.
mean, I've at least always tried to like post the video links for you guys, even if I don't join, at least.
Yeah. Well, anyway, everyone, we're going to make up that channel so you guys could make your recommendations. Please include a link to something we can click on. Not a purchase page, but a link to a review site or whatever. And tell us why we should go there. That's all you got to do. Why is it good? And don't spoil anything, please. So thank you so much. We'll talk to you guys really soon. Have a great evening. Good night.
Good night.
I remember it's